Story 1. Growing up, I always thought the world was full of complicated problems like wars, poverty, and corruption. However, the older I get, the more I realize it all boils down to one thing: people putting their own interests above everything else. Story 2. Our inability to see the long-term consequences of our actions affects various aspects such as the environment, politics, and personal choices. We continue to prioritize short-term comfort over long-term survival. Story 3. Lack of love. Everything comes down to love. If you truly love someone, you will not treat them the way most people treat one another today. Love creates empathy, and empathy creates kindness. Story 4. It's frustrating when the Wi-Fi is never strong enough in the one spot where you want to sit. Greed is a factor too, but the Wi-Fi issue is the main concern. Story 5. The idea that some lives matter less is the root of all that is wrong with the world. Paul Farmer. Story 6. Lack of understanding. From global conflicts to personal relationships, many issues stem from a failure to understand one another, whether it involves different perspectives, cultures, emotions, or the needs of our planet. If people truly listened, learned, and empathized more, many problems could be resolved. Story 7. Thinking of themselves as unicorns created by gods. Even when atheistic, we reject that we are animals and share the same biological realities as all living species. We do not even accept species, subspecies, and hybrids as they relate to humans. We deceive ourselves often. Deception is a problem, a significant one that affects many. Story 8. It's like looking around the kitchen for a can opener to open a can, and when you finally get it open, you realize it has expired. Story 9. Ego is what causes all problems within humanity. If you were to eliminate ego, society could focus solely on logic. However, does ego benefit humanity in artistic pursuits? Story 10. Fear can take many forms. The fear of missing out, the fear of poverty, the fear of feeling insignificant, the fear of inadequacy, and ultimately the fear of death. Story 11. We continue to harbor hatred towards each other based on skin color, religious beliefs, language differences, and many other foolish reasons to dislike someone. Story 12. Poor pattern recognition. Your whole life, your brain tries to learn the patterns of things to avoid pain and danger. This is very useful in nature and even today. The downside is that it often applies itself to inapplicable situations because your brain is doing its best to automate as much as possible. Story 13. Lack of purposeful character development. We are born selfish, short-sighted, and destructive to ourselves and everyone around us. If we do not actively work to overcome that, we remain that way. Story 14. Imperfect communication can lead to information being lost, misconstrued, or maliciously misinterpreted. If perfect communication were possible, with no ability to deceive or misinterpret, it would likely create a better world. Story 15. We are all in a dark room, stumbling around and bumping into each other, desperately looking for the light switch. Story 16. The resistance to new ideas proves our old thinking incorrect. If we were not so hostile to new ideas, I believe we would have progressed much faster as a species and there would not be so much conflict. Story 17. Child abuse is often rooted in sociopathic, psychopathic, and criminal behaviors that are exacerbated by a lack of care, food, and love, or by emotional, sexual, or physical violence toward the child. Story 18. Anxiety and fear drive many other emotions and behaviors. Even greed is often motivated by the fear of coming away empty-handed. Story 19. Watching people board a plane sums it up for me. Every time, I marvel at the spectrum of individuals. Some are considerate, efficient, and aware of their surroundings, while a small number struggle to manage their own way. Story 20. Human evolution. We possess a considerable amount of intellect. We might have been better off stopping our evolution at the ape stage or advancing just a little further. This is concerning. Thank you, Darwin. Story 21. It all starts with treating people as objects. Terry Pratchett's character Granny Weatherwax expresses this idea in the novel Carpe Jugulum. Story 22. The dissonance between our biological urges and our intellectual understanding of our existence. Story 23. Insecurity. Many people feel a need to prove themselves to others or chase meaningless ego boosts instead of learning to be comfortable with who they are and what they have. Story 24. Greed and, more importantly, the appearance of wealth. Individuals are destroying the lives of thousands, even millions, just to add some zeros to their bank balances. Money they will never spend in their lifetime, simply to say, "I have more." Story 25. I would say it is our tendency towards self-destructive behavior, both individually and collectively. This manifests in many ways, from war to environmental damage. Story 26. Humankind was made in the image of God. Like our Creator, our primary function in the universe is to establish order from chaos. All human problems stem from conflicting visions of what that order should look like. Story 27. Our inability to understand and cooperate with each other at scale. Story 28. We moved beyond the need for hierarchy a long time ago, but some individuals still convince us that it is necessary and appoint themselves as leaders. Story 29. We lack empathy for strangers. We develop it for anyone we know personally, but we become fearful of strangers. Story 30. If I had to summarize all of humankind's problems into a single issue, it would be disconnection from each other, from ourselves, and from the environment. This disconnection leads to misunderstandings, conflicts, inequality, and environmental degradation, all of which contribute to the challenges humanity faces. Story 31. Envy. Greed is a misinterpretation of ambition, twisted and corrupted by envy. Envy is the true cancer of everything. Story 32. Humans face competition for resources and exhibit maladaptations to our environments. Story 33. Good education, particularly in thinking skills, helps people avoid blindly repeating information that is clearly false. This understanding of how interconnected the world is can lead to mutual benefits. By helping others, you may eventually benefit indirectly as well. Story 34. Disconnecting from interconnection, or more simply, the ego. We think of ourselves as separate from nature, other humans, animals, and more, as if we are somehow above existence itself. We have established a system of separation. Black and white, our nationality versus others, male versus female, and everything in between, rich against poor, and so on. If we take away all those materialistic and external things, we would realize that we are all the same. All of us have wishes, hopes, and emotions. All of us deserve respect and acceptance. Story 35. Ego is at the core of bigotry, greed, and hate. It leads to war and genocide. Everything can be traced back to ego. Story 36. Our inability to truly forgive ourselves or each other may be related to our difficulty in accepting that, as humans, we are prone to making mistakes. We are, after all, just animals with complex brains. Story 37. Two options come to mind. 1. Lack of listening. By actively listening to others and engaging in communication, most interpersonal problems can be resolved. Lack of education, particularly in history. We continue to face the same issues, such as the resurgence of fascism, because we do not learn from the lessons of the past. Story 38. Disconnection from ourselves, from each other, from nature, and from deeper meaning is a pervasive issue. Most human problems, such as conflict, inequality, environmental destruction, and mental suffering, stem from this fundamental disconnection. When we forget our interconnectedness, we act in ways that harm ourselves and the world around us. Story 39. Ignorance is the root of many issues. Hate often arises from being unaware of the full story, leading us to engage in harmful behaviors like racism, misogyny, and genocide. If we better understood those we oppose, we would likely realize we share more common ground than we assume. Greed stems from ignorance about its impact on others. The greedy believe that their selfishness benefits them, but greed manifests in various forms and is pervasive. If we were more aware of its consequences, we would likely abandon it. Greed leads to fraud, theft, and an inflated sense of self-importance. Stupidity is closely related to ignorance. A lack of education or proper guidance can turn stupidity into a way of thinking and living, resulting in numerous problems. I could continue, but I would be surprised if anyone reads this far. Story 40. The lack of critical thinking skills among the majority of people and the manipulation of those individuals by dishonest actors. Story 41. Other people have pointed it out, but it bears repeating. Money, or greed more specifically. It keeps our environment polluted, our wars perpetual, our wages low, living costs high, and hate widespread. Yet, the extremely wealthy are very successful at convincing everyone else that the problems lie elsewhere. Any efforts hoping to improve the world for future generations that do not work towards reducing extreme wealth and its influence on politics and governance are a complete waste of time. As long as working people are arguing about transgender individuals in sports or which bathrooms they should use, the world will continue to degrade beneath us. Too few people are acknowledging the one true issue at the heart of our world's worst problems. Story 42. Resistance to change is often at the core of many problems. It frequently complicates simple solutions that could improve everyone's lives if people knew how to address it. Story 43. Not trying to be difficult, but even the question of the one problem is complex. It is human nature to view a thing or person as the sole obstacle holding us back. This reflects our primitive instincts, like thinking, the tribe living by the beach is the problem. We must eliminate it. In reality, the situation is much more complicated. Thus, the one problem that also serves as the solution is humanity itself. Story 44. We produce enough food to feed an entire planet of humans. Yet people go hungry on this one. Story 45. We do not have an empathetic way of dealing with avoidantly attached individuals with psychopathic tendencies. People often cite factors such as greed, lack of love, lack of empathy, religion, and tribalism, not realizing that this group contributes to the creation of antisocial ideologies. They attempt to establish an ideal operational environment for themselves, believing they have as much information as others, while the world operates under a reduced set of rules. In the past, society addressed this issue by placing them in roles that served the public good. However, they have occupied these positions for so long that they have concentrated power and begun to oppress others. Story 46. Sociopathy is the inability to empathize with others. I used to wonder how the Star Trek universe could possibly function, and then there was an episode where they informed a group of criminals from another culture about how Earth had addressed this issue by altering the brain. Fixing sociopathy, narcissism, and similar conditions could make a significant difference in the world. Story 47. I believe that greed has, in a way, caused technology to destroy human connection and communication. Story 48. People abandoning God is the source of all our problems in humanity since the beginning of time. Story 49. Lack of empathy and lack of caring are the sources of greed, war, cheating, betrayal, selfishness, a desire to be above others, narcissism, ignorance, and so much more. If people could mentally and emotionally place themselves in the shoes of their fellow humans and truly understand what they are going through on a deep, real level, they would make different choices. They would recognize that it could easily be them or remember how it feels to be in difficult situations. While some people feel empathy, they may lack the motivation to act on it or may use it to justify their actions, saying, "Not me, though. I will climb over those who are suffering to avoid my own pain." Therefore, both caring and empathy are important. If you truly cared for others, you would not steal from them, extort them, use them, discard them, bomb them, or shoot them. You would not bully them or look down on them, and you would not abandon or abuse them. This makes sense to me. Story 50. Greed. On an evolutionary scale, Homo sapiens have constructed a society centered around money, empowering those who possess the most wealth. We are, in a sense, selectively breeding greed as a trait to adapt to. The concept of being too big to fail also persists. Empires may collapse and people may perish, but the next empire will emerge with the notion of money, in whatever form it takes, as a central element. Homo sapiens can be seen as a self-interest-serving entity. Story 51. Short-sighted individuals can still do the right thing if they understand the long-term positive and negative effects. Unfortunately, humanity as a whole struggles to look beyond the immediate, whether that means not considering the future or not observing their surroundings and their own selves. Story 52. Fear. Fear of loneliness. Fear of failure. Fear of abandonment. Fear of appearing weak. Fear of needing help. Fear of so many things. Paralyzes us, drives us to poor decisions, leads to conflicts, starvation, tyrants, and untimely deaths. It also motivates us to strive for more, to improve, and to be better. There will always be fear, and humanity will always face challenges. Story 53. Many problems boil down to ego versus empathy. If we listened more and cared more, the world would be a better place. Story 54. Narcissism lacks humility and empathy, which are gateways to oppression, bigotry, and greed. The worst people in the world are narcissists before they become greedy or bigoted. Narcissism is a precursor to negativity. Story 55. Not respecting the boundaries of others is something we, as humans, still need to learn. It is one of the biggest issues that ruins everything. When you do not consider how your actions might impact others, when you are too lazy to think about this, it becomes a real problem. You set off a cycle of consequences that disrupt the boundaries of everyone involved. Apply this to any global issue, and it will make perfect sense. Story 56. Greed. The reason most of us have so many problems is that other people have decided they need more wealth, more power, just more of everything than anyone else has. It's a small group affecting everyone. Story 57. Good people are often quiet while bad people are loud. This applies to both words and actions. Story 58. Denial. Most human problems involve denial. When people try to raise awareness, they may tell you to stop caring because they believe there is nothing you can do, so why even try? People claim that issues no longer occur, but they are still happening every single day in the world. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.